changing your life one story at a time. This is the Chicken Soup for the Soul podcast with Editor-in-Chief Amy Newmark.
Hey, it's Amy Newmark with your daily dose of Chicken Soup for the Soul inspiration, and it's Wow Wednesday. It's also the first day of June. And since June is Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month, I'm going to share a Chicken Soup for the Soul story that will make you wonder what we really know about the brain, and also what happens when we die. This story, The Day Nanny Died, was written by Karen Ekstrom, and it was published in our best-selling book, Chicken Soup for the Soul, Touched by an Angel. So Karen tells us that her grandmother, Nanny, was so tiny at the end that she barely created a bump in the bed as she lay under the hospital sheets. Karen and her brothers and sisters and her mother gathered around Nanny's bed. The doctor was there too, holding the do not resuscitate order in his hand. They were letting Nanny go. She had just had her second stroke, and her entire right side was paralyzed. She couldn't move. She couldn't speak. She was struggling to sit up, but she couldn't move, and she could only make garbled sounds come from her mouth. She was so frustrated. Karen was only 16 years old, and she was horrified by what she saw her grandmother going through. She had never seen anyone close to death before. She watched as Nanny's working hand reached out like a claw and grasped her mother's arm. And Karen's mother leaned in to listen, but only a horrible rattling noise came out of Nanny's mouth. Karen says her grandmother had been lovely, elegant, the grandmother who took them all on fantastic cruises. This suffering, paralyzed woman was someone she didn't recognize. Then, suddenly, Nanny sat up. Her paralysis was gone, and she started speaking normally, saying, "Anita, I need you to listen. I'm trying to tell you where I hid Aunt Bess's diamond ring." Karen says that Nanny was famous for hiding things. She stashed dollars in jelly jars. She put rings in the sofa. She hid her silver tea set under the bathroom sink. And Karen's mother had been saying they probably wouldn't find all the valuables that Nanny had stashed in various places. Karen's mother had asked Nanny to tell her where things were, but she had always been rebuffed. Nanny said she would tell her when she needed to know. Well, apparently the time was now. Nanny was sitting up, batting away a Kleenex offered to her, speaking clearly, briskly, efficiently. The paralysis from the stroke somehow pushed to the side. Nanny giggled and said, "I've placed Aunt Bess's ring in Gone with the Wind. I hollowed out the book. The book is on the third shelf in the library, left side." Then Nanny got a look on her face. She looked kind of impatient and loving as she turned and addressed an empty spot at the end of her bed. "Herman, I am not ready yet. Give me a minute." Herman was Karen's grandfather, Nanny's husband, who had died 7 years before. Nanny turned back to Karen's mother. "Did you find my bracelet?" Karen's mother nodded, yes. "Just a minute," Nanny said to the empty spot at the end of the bed. She turned back to Karen's mother. "And the silver dollars?" Karen's mother nodded yes, she had found those too. Nanny said, "Good." And then she lay back on the bed and closed her eyes. And then she spoke one more time. "Okay, Herman, I'm ready." And she died right then, that very instant. And a weird light, like a stray sunbeam, hit the window and then vanished. Karen's mother turned to the doctor, who was still standing there. "Did you see that? Have you ever seen something like that before?" "Yes," the doctor said, taking a deep breath and letting it out slowly. "I see this more often than you'd think." Interesting, right? How did Nanny's paralysis disappear and her speaking abilities come back? The brain is a mystery. It's the least well understood of all our organs. And was Herman there at the end of the bed? I love stories like this about the unexplainable, and I love sharing them with you. Now, tomorrow I'm going to complete the thought and tell you 2 stories about a couple of elderly people, one of them my father-in-law, who went out in style. Their stories may give you some ideas of your own. I'm Amy Newmark. Thank you for listening to the Chicken Soup for the Soul podcast today. Let me know what you think and shoot me an email at amy@chickensoupforthesoul.com. And if you'd like to read some great tips from the book I mentioned today and some more stories about the unexplainable, then look up Chicken Soup for the Soul, Touched by an Angel on our website, chickensoup.com.